We've got a great treat for you right now. My friend Vince Zampella is joining us right now from Respawn Entertainment. And this is a man that has worked on all kinds of fantastic games: Call of Duty, Medal of Honor, Apex Legends, and my favorite first-person shooter of all time, Titanfall 2. Vince, how are you doing, my friend?
Yeah, we go way back. You look so young, but I know you're not.
Thank you. Thank you. You can keep the compliments coming. I love it. You look young too, man, considering the size and scale of the games that you have worked on. Very, very good. I know your team is huge and it continues to grow, but I want to go back in time a bit. What games made you realize that there might be a job in this industry, and why was that?
I don't think I ever considered it as a career until it kind of fell in my lap. Yeah, that sounds terrible, but I mean, it's something I've always been into games. I've been a game player, board games, pen and paper RPGs, video games, arcade, console, everything. And it just kind of never occurred to me.
Where did you start? What were some of your first jobs?
I worked at a company in North Miami called Game Tech. And they worked on, like, their bread and butter was like Jeopardy, Wheel of Fortune, Family Feud games, like way back.
Amazing.
Way back.
When you work on games like that, that gives you a perspective. You're reaching a different audience than Titanfall. But I think that's probably a very useful perspective to have if you're going to lead teams, right?
Well, I didn't get to work on those games. Those were the top ones. I got to work on other stuff. Yeah. I had to earn my way up to a Jeopardy.
Oh, that's awesome. And so you went from Game Tech. I know you had a stint at Atari for a while as well.
That's right.
Yeah, talk to me about working at Atari. This would have been in the 90s, right?
Yeah, this was like probably 96.
What was Atari like in 1996?
It was odd. It was Jaguar days.
Yeah.
So I worked on some Jaguar games, actually. It was weird because it wasn't, the heyday of Atari. It was kind of, Jaguar wasn't the hit that everyone wanted it to be. So, I mean, it was cool to work, to see all the history and to kind of be there.
Yeah.
It was odd.
Yeah. Was there a connective tissue? Were there people that had been there since the 70s, and were you working alongside some vets like that?
There were some people that I don't know how long, but they had definitely been there for years.
Oh, that's so
they
cool.
saw the heyday, and we heard some of the stories. Probably some of them not safe for broadcast.
Yes, I bet. Yeah, right. Well, not this particular broadcast, but someone will make a movie or a documentary about that for sure. I think this might be my favorite question for you today. What's the best thing that a player has said to you about a game that you have worked on?
So we get a lot of fan mail about like World War II games, like when we were doing, this was about the original Medal of Honor, where we had someone who said, his grandfather was in World War II. He never understood what it was. His grandfather didn't really talk about it, but they, in playing the game, he learned a lot more than he ever did. And he started talking to his grandfather. They established a relationship, and, it started a whole thing, communication with a different generation, and so that to me is really powerful.
Yeah. You've worked on Call of Duty and Medal of Honor. You were on the first Call of Duty, yes? Yes, the very first one. We didn't talk about this before, but that game was incredibly moving for me. I was playing that on like Christmas Eve, and I remember the mission of the Russians having to go into battle, and they didn't have weapons, and their leaders were pointing guns at them, saying, "You go into battle and you pick up a rifle off of a fallen soldier." And I had no idea about that. I didn't know, and the game taught me that, and I broke down, man. Like, I was just like, "Holy crap! These people had to go into battle like that."
Yeah,
that must have been.
To think about what everyone went through.
Yeah. And talk to me about that, because you're in your 20s building this stuff. This must have been incredibly impressionable on you as well, like the association with the military and all the detail that you had to get. I mean, that must have been some stuff to work out for you.
Yeah, I think you start to dig into it, and it's an entertainment piece. So you always want to make something that's fun, but then you start to dig in and you talk to veterans and people that were there, and you start to realize the weight of everything and what you're doing. Sure. And you kind of realize you have to portray this in a certain light because it's, people fought and died to, give us what we have today. So it's, it's really important to preserve that in the right way.
That's crazy. Yes, absolutely. So you worked on Medal of Honor, and Allied Assault is definitely a highlight in your career. But then you worked on Call of Duty, and then you've launched Respawn and Titanfall, and lots of different stops along the way. You're kind of going full circle now with the VR game, the version of Medal of Honor that's coming to VR devices this year. What's that like for you to kind of do this circle back to Medal of Honor?
Yeah, it's kind of like a karmic reset because we made Call of Duty, with a little bit of the intention of, crushing Medal of Honor because we switched away from EA and did something new. So it's kind of a reset. And, we see all the veterans that we interview, and we have a lot of gallery pieces and things in the game. And a lot of these veterans are in their 90s. Some of them that we interviewed last year have already passed. So this is really last opportunity to capture these stories and memorialize them. So it's really it's like dealing with some of the interviews and stuff like that. Like there was, a point where we were with one of the vets and he was telling his story and his daughters were there and they were crying and I was crying. And it's just,
for sure.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And I know this because obviously I've been covering games for so long and I'm acutely aware of the power of the medium, but I think there is something, certainly it's entertainment, but there is this ability to convey a story and convey palpable moments that's sort of unique to games that makes things like this project incredibly valuable beyond their entertainment value, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I like to think so. I think we're getting better as storytellers. We're doing more, we're seeing lots of different kinds of games come in and tell things, tell stories from different angles and, trying to make that emotional connection.
Yeah. Well, I have to say congratulations to Respawn on multiple levels. I love Jedi Fallen Order, fantastic Star Wars experience, and congrats on the lightsaber being sold at Galaxy's Edge. That's a huge thing for you guys. I know.
Crazy.
That's fantastic. I love it, man. But Titanfall is near and dear to my heart. I can remember the reveals at E3 and how crazy these giant Titans were in the middle of the EA booth. It was just like, what? It was so cool. But Titanfall 2 literally is my favorite first-person shooter. I've just been playing it on the Xbox Series X again, and holy crap does it sing. All the HDR that's lit up and everything, it's gorgeous. I don't know if you've checked it out in next gen, but oh my God, it's beautiful. But
I don't have
congrats on Apex Legends.
Yet.
Oh, you're going to love it, man. I think you're going to get a whole bunch of new people coming to this incredible game. But speaking of this incredible game, Apex Legends extends the universe, and I don't know if you can use this opportunity to say that there may be more Titanfall, but we have this platform, my friend, and I know that there's many fans of your franchise around the world that may want to hear something.
Yeah, we don't really have anything to announce. Titanfall's obviously, near and dear to the studio. And so we always look at opportunities and we always experiment with Apex. And yes, you never know what'll happen, but there's nothing to announce.
Okay,
nice try.
Well, it puts a little bit of optimism in my heart. I have a feeling that we may see some more Titanfall. Okay, let's talk about management, because obviously your responsibilities have shifted and changed and grown over the years. Now you've built an incredibly talented team at Respawn, and what's the secret to finding talent but also keeping them there?
It's a good question. I don't know. It's secret sauce. I think it's just in hiring the right people, empowering them to do things that make them feel good, and providing air cover for that, right? Like taking the weight off their shoulders of freeing them to do something amazing.
Very good. Your success with your projects and your relationship with EA is leading to expanding your role. Now, how much is external development going to integrate into that? Because obviously you have your mothership studio at Respawn, but you're working with some Vancouver devs, you're working with some LA-based devs. How much is outside external development going to be a part of the ingredients now?
Well, I think it's when we were smaller, and we've always been on the smaller side of dev. Our teams at Respawn. We were very much focused on keeping things internal, having the team together. You get the benefits of everyone being in the same room, kind of. We're seeing that as we've grown, we have now a tendency to say, okay, we need to start opening up to external development. So we've been slowly opening that up. And I think the capabilities of external devs have increased, like 100-fold over the last, 10 years. So I think we're seeing better results and more need for it. So we've been kind of heading that direction anyway. And now with COVID and everyone kind of being distributed, and we're seeing we're figuring out how to work more distributed. So I think it just opens that pathway up, even quicker.
Well, both with Activision and with Electronic Arts, they have teams and studios all over the world. So I think the preparation for that trust has been growing as your career has been growing anyways, right? Now it's just sort of widening the circle a bit.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah. So what do you look for when you're partnering with development companies?
It's different based on every project, right? Like we have an incubation project that we're starting up that we're envisioning probably being, mostly we're going to try to keep the team size as small as possible internally and do mostly external dev. So that's going to be, a different look than something like an Apex where we have a pattern already kind of set and we just need smaller pieces, filling gaps in content. I think there's, every project's going to have different needs, and we're going to have varying, one studio will be great for Apex, might not necessarily work for this incubation project, but another studio would be perfect for that. So
I guess, that's part of the joy, and this firsthand, the joy of the video game industry is its, constant reinvention, and you have to try a bunch of different ways. There is no one applicable format for this that works every time in every case.
Right. And I love that.
Yeah.
That to me is
great.
One of the best things about the industry. It's not a pattern.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no mystery. I mean, it's all mysterious, and there's no secret key to unlock it all, right? And you never know what's going to really succeed or blow up, or how many different people you're going to need for some of these things if it does grow.
You form it around the people that, and it's who's directing the game, and the strengths that they have kind of dictates, how we will work with external partners and how we'll work with the rest of the team. And so that constantly changes, and it's fun.
Well, you've worked on so many flavors of games. I think the first time we met was on Skies from Segasoft back in the day from Heat.net. Is there a favorite kind of game that you like to be a part of? Do you like story-based narrative stuff? Do you like multiplayer, shooters? Now that you've entered into this free-to-play, massive multiplayer type of game design with Apex Legends, is there a favorite kind of thing that you like to work on, or is it more esoteric than that?
I like the story stuff.
Yeah.
We've typically been more multiplayer, but something like, expanding what we do and constantly learning, to me is really the best part. So doing something like Jedi, it's not, the obvious thing. It's not the obvious path to do a third-person story game. But to me, that was why it was the most important thing to do it. We wanted to show we're not one-trick pony. We're not just the multiplayer guys. Yes, I like multiplayer games. I also love story games. I also love RPGs. I also so I think expanding that and showing that we can do more and be more was important to me.
I think that's what shocked the world about Titanfall 2. Nobody expected it, especially after Titanfall 1 was a multiplayer focused experience. Titanfall 2 was it had a brilliant story, and you actually cared about BT so much. And so, we love the story stuff that's coming out of Respawn. Talk to me a little bit about working with Lucasfilm. Now, obviously, you've worked with, sensitive subject matter and huge brands and things like that before. Is working on a Star Wars game a totally different thing than a military shooter?
It is, because, there's an IP holder. So, we kind of have to be sensitive to what they want to do, but we also try to push them to kind of, get out of their comfort zone and let us do things that we want to do and not be safe. So I think it ended up being a really good partnership, and the story team there was great. And once we kind of got into the vibe, Stig was talking to them, constantly. And I think we really used each other to make the game better than it would have been, alone. So it ended up being really good. Now, there's times where you get frustrated. There are times where they were probably frustrated with us, but I think that's part of the process of pushing.
You need those sparks.
Yeah.
Right. And everybody needs to be as invested to make it successful.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what it feels like.
Everyone was really invested, on both sides. Obviously the Lucas people are very invested in their IP, but Stig and I, like the team, they're fans of the game. They're fans of the franchise. So doing it was just, it was a labor of love.
You can also feel free to use this platform to tell us if there's going to be more, stories with Cal Kestis if you want to right now.
So that lightsaber in the parks.
Very good.
How cool is that?
Nice evasion techniques. Okay. Have you ever been hesitant to employ external developers? And if so, what helped to change your perspective on that?
Yeah, I mean, of course, early on, it's, you worry about quality, you worry about, security. So that's something that early on in the career, you kind of try to shy away from. You use it only as like a last case. And I think we've now seen, such a surge in usage and teams kind of getting up to speed and having good security protocols in place that's much less of an issue now.
Right. And I mean, everybody's distributed development now because of the pandemic. And so is that going to, bolster the idea of using more teams that are based all over the world like this?
I would think so. I mean, there's no mandate around it. And in empowering the game directors to kind of build their best team, a lot of that is up to them. Right. So there is no, mandate of, like Stig's team has to use this or Steve's team has to use this. It really comes down to situational, and we'll adjust based on what the game is. And so
does it shock you as someone that's, been in the trenches, the literal trenches of game development all the way along, to see how much you can rely on the strengths of people that don't show up to the same space all the time, and you can learn from them, and they push your project forward?
You mean with distributed development? I think
we
haven't seen the full impact of it yet. So like we're not probably at 100% efficiency. We're still learning. We're still figuring that out. So and then you were like something like Apex, where we were still running. Like it's easy to go home and say, okay, I know what I was doing already, and I just need to finish at home. I think we'll see how that fares once we start to see like the new creative process and how we get things, new things envisioned and, to fruition. Like, what's that going to look like? And is it going to be better or worse? We don't know.
Yeah.
So it's a little
scary.
I've
had some interesting conversations over the last couple of days with devs, and Amy Hennig was on a couple of days ago, and she's set up a new studio at Skydance, which is really going to lean into distributed development and directors kind of leading all kinds of teams all over the place. So yeah, I mean, it's again another transformational kind of era, and streaming technologies. We just saw Facebook enter into the fray this week, and Amazon, I think since we last talked, has launched their Luna service. It's going to make it interesting. I was actually thinking about streaming, maybe not so much as an applicable end case for consumers quite yet. And I think that there has to be a little bit of humility with these companies that are pushing this technology forward right now. But in terms of instantly playing development, instantly being able to access games that are still being worked on, that seems, and especially in an era where everybody's working from home, that seems like it could be pretty cool tech. Is that something that you guys are looking at all right now?
Yeah, we're looking at everything, every kind of solution to help us, as we get distributed. Because, setting up a studio with that in mind is great. We're going from, we've all been in the office for, years and years and years. So now we're relearning. We have to reteach ourselves how to do it. So we'll struggle more. I think we've done a great job. The teams have been amazing and kind of pulling it through. But, you look for where are the weaknesses, where are people kind of falling down in that.
Yep.
And, being stuck at home kind of sucks sometimes, like
for sure.
People are just like, they want to get out, they want to do new things. So I think we need,
there's a safe space element of being able to come in with your ideas and everybody's sort of moving in the same direction that gets a little pushed against when everybody's at home and dealing with the home world. Yeah.
We could probably learn a lot from people that have, like, a lot of these, external development teams have been more distributed or are used to working, with different teams constantly. So we could probably learn a lot from how they, best practices that they see in doing that.
Yeah. It always shocked me. I forget the guy's name, but the he became famous for doing intro sequences to movies like Seven and things like that. And he was just like a solitary guy, and everybody was using him. I think Seven was like the big, but he did it out of his garage. And the more that I got to interview filmmakers and things, I realized that a lot of the shots are just distributed to people at home, and they're just cutting, and then they submit it to a larger kind of melange of all of these different elements. And I feel like games are kind of creeping in that direction, maybe racing in that direction right now. That was part of my questions here, but how would an external dev get in touch with you guys to potentially work with Respawn? And if you want to share a phone number for somebody, please feel free.
Our guy is Eric Barrios. So I don't know, he's probably around during the conference. Cool. I don't have his phone number. I would totally give it out just to mess with him. But yeah, I mean, we get a lot of, like emails kind of sent in through LinkedIn or just, personal. That's probably not the best way. So I think talk to Eric and figure it out.
Vince, you can say it, man. You can say, don't send me an email if you want to do some distributed development with me.
It's probably not the best way is all. You can do it. But there's probably a better path.
Oh, that's right. That's awesome. We have a Q&A that is queuing up right now. We've got some questions in. I'm going to ask Vince a couple more questions, though. Clearly, as someone that runs a studio, you have to kind of survey the landscape and check out the competition. What are some games that always, or a studio that develops games that fires you up, that gets you excited as a player, that you're always paying attention to?
I mean, I'm always a sucker for Blizzard games. So,
and why is that?
Their games, it's good quality. What you get is going to be very well developed. It's going to be fun. It's going to be quality. So I will probably always play a Blizzard game. Recently, like Ghost of Tsushima was amazing, like visually stunning. Fun. Yeah. That's probably the last one that I just finished.
That's awesome. When you play games, as someone that's been making them for so long, do you just take them apart, or are you able to just get lost in the escapism, or do you just see the code and all the work that goes into it, and you see behind the curtain too much? How is it for you?
No, I think if you see behind the curtain, it's probably because they're doing something that makes it too obvious. So games that are done well, it's easy to just kind of get into and fall into the world, and like I enjoy playing games.
That's awesome. That's great to hear. Blizzard was one of the partner studios while you were at Activision, or maybe that deal was just starting to happen when you were there. I'm curious if you ever thought of collaborating with Blizzard or had meetings with them to kind of soak up a little of their development philosophies, or was there ever talk of any kind of work on a project together?
No comment. I have a lot of friends from Blizzard, so.
Gotcha. Okay, we almost got into some good stuff there, guys. Okay, I'm going to go into the Q&A for a little bit. Fell in a couple minutes late, so apologies if this has already been discussed. How was the acquisition by EA influenced your culture? And this is a good one. And added to Respawn, more generally speaking. This was obviously huge news. Respawn was independent, famously so, launched an independent project published by EA, and now not so much. Now you are part of the EA umbrella, and that role within EA is actually growing for you. So how is it? How has it been?
I mean, I think changing, going from being independent to being part of a corporation, is always, I don't want to say rough, but, it changes things. So I think we try to be very protective of the Respawn culture. We still do things, we try to do things our way, but we have to be cognizant of what's happening in kind of greater EA. So, but we've always been partnered with EA, since Respawn's inception. So it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah. Good. Okay, cool. And that was from Junie, who's been coming up with fantastic questions this week, by the way. Chris at XDS asks, now that you've ascended to an Overwatch role with your studios, how do you remain close to production to feed your passion for creative development and storytelling? Excellent question.
That is an excellent question. I still try to sit in meetings when I can, and, I talk to the game directors constantly and just make sure that we're, in sync on things. Yeah. So it's, I think that's a constantly ebbing and flowing role. Like, what I do every day isn't the same. It's like, sometimes this needs more attention, sometimes something else needs more attention.
I've talked to a lot of people over the years that have obviously grown in their roles and their responsibilities, and it does shift, right? I mean, when you start and you're in the games business, it's really about the product, the experience that you're crafting with your colleagues, and it's so close to you. And then as success comes, so too does this. You have to steward, you have to be the guide for everybody, you have to really worry about your people, but yep. I also see that there is tremendous reward in seeing the success of the people that you've brought on board too, and that must be true for you. Like to see Stig just rocket on Jedi must have been so gratifying for you.
It is, and even on top of that, like there's people on the Apex team that we've been working together for 15, 20 years, and to see them kind of go from starting their career to now leading team, part of the team on Apex is that is fantastic. It's like such a journey that they've been able to go through, and all of us together.
Yeah, and it's a hard thing to reconcile, right? Because you probably and I can see this a bit, because obviously as we made seasons of television, I was able to grow our hosts and things, and I saw them take on different responsibilities and opportunities, and I was so proud for them. There's a paternal thing that starts to happen, but you also reconcile with you're growing older, you're aging, and you have to let the reins go a little bit. But that's all part of it. That's part of the road.
It is part of it. It's an intentional, and we do it. It means that I'm doing something different, but for the right reasons. Yeah, and it's giving all these people that have been part of the success of Respawn the opportunity to grow and be better, and it's the circle of life.
It is. Well, it is. I know we're so kumbaya right now, but talk to me about being blown away by a young person that comes in with a fresh perspective that maybe you didn't think about. I mean, has that happened for you? Like they just have blown your mind with an approach or a suggestion or something that is like, yeah, of course we should do that.
Yeah, I mean, that happens all the time. We get, we're very open to, feedback comes from everywhere. People that are on the game team should be invested and give opinions. There is no, you shut up and implement my idea kind of, culture, I hope, at any of the studios that I'm on. So I think we see that constantly, and that's how these people have been able to grow themselves, but also, grow the games that Respawn's done. It's because we let that kind of percolate up, and the best idea should win, not, the best position.
Yes. I think by about the mid 2000s, we started to see a real maturity of 3D game design. I think that there was a lot of effort to kind of figure out cameras and figure out how to, make these things work, when we went from pixels and side scrollers to full 3D experiences. So, and you were right there in the middle of all that, making, massive global successes. How much has really shifted? I mean, obviously they're bigger, but how much has the development and the approaches and the design shifted from, let's say, mid 2000s game making, huge, massive, epic scale hits, to 2020 huge, epic, massive scale hits?
I don't know. I think people consume content differently today. There's a lot of free to play options and things like that. So I think that's more where we see the biggest changes is, looking at how are we going to deliver games and deliver the amount of content that people want to consume. Not so much, cameras and things like that, because that's kind of, like you said, we've kind of figured that out along the way. Yeah. But more transformative, I think, is content delivery and how people consume.
Do you think that correlates with the YouTube generation and the sort of snapshot sort of pieces of entertainment that people have passively as well? Is it all sort of correlate, and the streamers that are out there, is it all kind of tied together?
I think so. I mean, we see watching games is almost as popular as playing games now in a lot of cases. There's, so many hours spent watching other people play, to learn or just to be entertained. And so I think it just all works. It opens it up to more people too. I'm not necessarily comfortable playing that game, but I'll watch it for a little while, and then maybe I'll get into playing it. So I think it works really well.
That's awesome. Got some more questions here for you. Apex Legends has some of the best trailers in the industry. Are there external partners involved? And if so, have you worked with the same vendors consistently, or do you mix it up? This is from Dave at Phoenix Labs.
Yes, we do use external partners. We have, we don't work with, like, it's not all in one single partner, but we do definitely work with them multiple times.
Very good. Do you want to name drop?
The Mill is currently who we're using.
Okay, cool. David Lamb asks, "Oh, you're okay with the game engine between and the game engine war between Unity and Epic. What do you see as any possible negative outcomes from this competition?"
I don't know. Like, we should have some competition, right? Like, doesn't that drive everyone to be better?
Yeah.
So hopefully none.
Right. We shouldn't just have one game engine.
Right.
There should be some opportunities. Yeah, because the homogeny that might happen from that would not be reflective of the imagination that exists in games. Right.
We want to have different options with different strengths and weaknesses, and let people choose the engine that works for the vision that they want to create.
Well, let's talk about VR, because my theory on VR is I love Oculus. I love what they have done for VR. Like, hats off to the studio. I know you're working with them on Medal of Honor. They are an incredible, obviously lots of investment, lots of dollars behind it, but they're pushing the medium forward, and some just really, like, the Quest 2 is just an incredible device. But the idea that there are gates of how to access this content, and you have to do workarounds. I just reviewed Quest 2, and I got Squadrons working on it, but I had to do a whole bunch of things, and then I posted the review, and then everybody had a whole bunch of different ways that you could play. And it's like, it should be a lot easier to just put on any headset and play anything in VR, I think, at this moment in time. I know you've got a vested interest in Oculus, but I'm curious on your perspective on that. Do you think that the competition that exists in VR specifically, is that healthy for the medium?
I think we've not cracked the nut, right? Like, VR isn't mainstream. So yeah, I think the more people looking at the problems and trying to solve it and working together, knowing that there is a future in VR and we haven't fully opened it up yet, and it's such an amazing experience when you get something in VR 100%. That works. It's just like, it's magical, and that's that's what it's about. We try to do things that are transformative and magical, and this is an opportunity for us to kind of get in and look at that, and how are we going to make it better, and how are we going to do something different and unique. So I think hardware companies looking at that, I think, is the more we have, the better, because they're going to crack the code faster if we have more people looking at it. So I think any kind of work there, and I think they all see it that way too.
Yes, I know that everybody's got. I know, and there's a lot of moving pieces, and there are quotas and innate corporate competitions happening for sure. I'm an evangelist for the medium. That's what my job has been for 25 years. Get more people to play, more people to pay attention to this stuff, more people talking about it, and how this stuff gets made. And I see, like this year, and I think Medal of Honor is going to be the fourth one, but we've had Half-Life Alyx and Star Wars Squadrons and Iron Man VR. I think that those are three of the biggest VR releases, but you have to go to different places to get them, Right. And I think we need to. Anyways, I'll get off my soapbox. Let's get a question from, how do you foster creativity at Respawn, notably during COVID times? This is from Jeffrey.
Say that again.
How do you foster creativity at Respawn, notably during COVID times?
I think, it's just the teams get together and do their thing. I think they're so passionate about what they do that we don't necessarily need to. I mean, we've tried to do little things like, we had a talent show, which, hopefully those videos never make it onto the internet. There were some amazing people. There was some amazing talent.
You maybe shouldn't have said that in public, my friend.
So I think we're trying different things, to to get people together, just to kind of, because when people know each other and they interact more on a social level, then you're just more open to talking about things and more comfortable, kind of being open, where a Zoom call one-on-one isn't so bad, when it's 30 people and you don't know who you're talking over and what, you can't really read people's faces and expressions, like, it starts to break down a little bit. So
any parent with a kid knows that.
Ways to deal with that and trying to make smaller groups and connect things together.
Yeah, so any parent with a kid in school knows that right now, like trying to put 30 kids into a classroom, it's just utter chaos. So are you endeavoring then to do, smaller meetups and things like that to kind of spur creative bits, company wide, and then taking those ideas into a larger group?
Yeah, I mean, we're trying a little bit of everything. I don't know that we have the answer yet. So I think it's, try a bunch of stuff and see what works best. We're still in. I
remember visiting Pandemic, poorly named studio this year. Excellent company. Also, rest in peace, former EA company. But they had a quality of life manager. And I had never heard that before. And we did a whole thing on it. And what they did is they took in employees that were coming to the company and they got them driver's licenses and they showed them different restaurants. And they isn't that cool? Like, it was so really forward thinking. Yeah. And it was about integrating them into the culture and the community of Los Angeles and the city. Do you guys have anything similar to that? Or, I mean, it would be moot this year, but do you have anything kind of like that?
Not really anywhere as cool. Like, we try to do, like in your first week, we set people up to like take you out to lunch or things like that. But again, not applicable now.
Yeah.
But we are looking
I always thought
doing,
that
like Zoom meetups, like, so that way you don't like start at a company. Because imagine starting a job and never meeting anyone in person, never just being on like some Zoom calls. Like, that must be weird.
I know, man. I feel for all of that. There's so many weird elements of our society, but yes, that in particular, leaving somewhere that knew this year and then starting somewhere new, that is daunting. That is a big thing for a lot of folks. I feel for you. Okay, working on several unique projects in parallel, or at least in short succession, were there any remarkable cross-project learnings that you were and are able to apply across the portfolio? Another good one from Junie.
No. Not really.
Is it siloed then? You kind of, I mean, obviously you have some sharing, but a lot of it is like you have this focus and your team is focused on that and this team is focused on that.
Yeah, it's mostly pretty siloed. Like, the teams are very separate and unique, and they have their own cultures. And so, we'll share a little bit here and there where it's like, hey, we have some, we need some help with something, for a short period of time, but we mostly let the teams be the teams.
I think that there's a market,
technologies or different styles of games. They're
totally.
So
there's a market case for that too, right? Because the gaming community is so smart and vocal and has so many platforms to express themselves that you don't want there to be any sense of familiarity from one project to the other. Like, the sports game teams go through this every year. It's like, well, how come this is not this different from last? It's like the same sport. How is it going to change in 9 months? But when you're making this fiction-driven type content like you guys, it has to be unique every time, right?
Yeah, I mean, ideally.
Yeah. Okay. Good question, Junie. Let's see. We got somebody from 5518 Studios. This is from Elvina Antonova saying, "What challenges teams have faced in bringing?" What challenge have you guys faced bringing games to Steam and now Nintendo Switch? Because Apex Legends is on Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, I think we announced that the Switch was delayed a little bit just because it's getting that game that we never envisioned on the platform onto it. It's a lot of work. So the team's actively working really hard on it, but it's been taking longer than we would have liked.
Can you give us any specific stuff like that you guys were that you've experienced on the Switch? I mean, I know it's an epic, full, beautiful, massive 4K type of game that you're putting onto a 720p machine, but is there something else that was surprising to you guys?
No, it's just that we didn't, it's not surprising at all. We knew it would be a problem, but it's just, it's a lot of work, a lot of optimization work to get it to run and look, we want it to look ideal. The Switch is an amazing platform. So we want it, we want to represent it well. We want to represent the game well. So, we just
the Switch is an amazing platform because it really kind of showcases that it's the game, right? It's the game at the heart of it. That is like the pull. It's not just the 4K beautiness. It's not 4K 120 frames per second, which we all want. It's the game that really can sing, and to have that much success on that machine just showcases how important design is and how much we kind of connect with our mechanics and our systems and all that stuff, which you guys have nailed. I don't need to remind you. You guys have nailed for a long time. Okay. This one is from, I had a new one in there. So, okay, this one was from Chris. Tell us a little bit more about sort of shepherding the teams to kind of make sure that they're going in the same direction, like everybody wants to have their creative thumbprint on this stuff. How do you talk to developers and kind of get them to, work together and sort of find the finish line together? Because I would imagine that there's so many creative inputs and you don't want to be too micromanagement heavy. But how do you kind of maintain that and maintain your schedules and maintain your focus and finish a project together? Is that easier to say than it is to see accomplished?
Well, I think it's setting priorities. Like it's like we set dates and we hit those dates, and we'll scope down aggressively to make sure we hit those. And we, a more refined, slightly smaller scope, but more refined product to me is way better than something that, you just pile on features and they only get done to 80%. And I think as far as like the vision, it's, like with something like Star Wars, like, Stig and I kind of set out, like we wanted to do something like this and built a team around it. And, so it's really easy. And then, empowering Stig, like we have a game director. The buck stops with him. It's letting his vision go through. And yes, I have say in it, but ultimately I want him to make the best game because he's 100% on that game. So he's going to be the one that puts everything into it with his team. It's an amazing team. I don't want to make it sound like it's one person, but it's, I want one person to be in charge of driving that vision and working with the team.
So what would you say to, a founder or a small company that's kind of emerging into this space and wants to, start their journey as a partner developer and sort of working their way to working on big projects and stuff like that? What kind of advice would you give to that that relative newcomer into the video game space?
I mean, it's about quality of work. So I think, like the demo reels that stand out, tend to make their way to the top. So it's doing things that, that you have pride in and that shines through. And I think, you see that a lot. And some of it is, like one company might not be great for the type of work that we're doing on, or the type of, outsourcing that we need on, like say Star Wars, like on Jedi, what did we need? So we would look for someone that, if you need vehicles or something like that, like one company might be better at it than another. So it's showcasing what work you do. And I think it's consistency. I think that's some of the things that you worry about with outsourced groups is, you don't know, do you have the same person from week to week working on your project, being in charge of it? Like, somebody on that side who is invested in your project almost as much as you are, it means a lot, and it makes a big difference in the quality of work you get, and understanding, what the project is and what things mean. That translates in, it's assets, it's just props or things like that, but it makes a difference.
You probably have discussions with some of your directors and some of your people in charge of external development about specific things that you may employ, you may or may not employ with the games that you're working on and the teams that you're building up. But I'm wondering if you've ever, thought to yourself, well, this would be a great direction for an external developer to come and approach us with, but that maybe you don't know exists or doesn't exist out there. Are there elements of development that maybe some external companies should be thinking about sort of growing within their own organizations?
I don't know. I mean, I think we see like there's external groups that we work with that are like more multiplayer focused and can do things around that. So like I think there are little specialties, and that is, sometimes useful.
Yeah.
So like, like we're working with a team for the multiplayer in Medal of Honor, so that, that is kind of more focused around that. And that's been a really good partnership.
Do you work with an outside analytics firm, or is that something that EA kind of handles for you guys?
EA handles that.
Yeah. Okay. What can you tell us about the addition of Dice LA to your portfolio? That is a question from Jeffrey at Original Force.
They're a good bunch of people that have been working on, like Battlefield content for a long time. And now we're going to, like sit down and figure out like what's next. So they've got some cool stuff that they're working on right now, and not really much to announce yet, but.
Yeah. The portfolio of Electronic Arts, as games have scaled up, it's gotten smaller, but in a smart way, right? Obviously, you don't want to overextend and just sort of kill your quality levels. I think that EA has been going through some changes and some stuff for sure over the last several years of the types of games and the amounts of games. Can you let us know if we're about to see EA ramp up a little bit more, and a little bit more diversification, a little bit more titles per year again? Are we going to see that cycle happen again from Electronic Arts?
I think that's a bigger question than me. You should talk to my boss.
Okay.
Talk to Laura.
I'm fishing. I'm getting some stuff in there. Okay, I got one right here. How do you keep coming up with great new ideas such as Fight or Fright, Flashpoint, etc.? This is from Maxim at 5518.
That's the team comes up with that. I mean, they've got some amazing ones that, that come out like that, and then there's some ones that don't resonate as well. So I think it's experimental, iterative, like trying different things. There's, a bunch of modes that go through tests, throughout Respawn, and 5% of them make it, the other ones don't. So I think that's a trial and error kind of process more than anything.
Yes. You've worked on incredibly cinematic properties, and I think at one point or another there's been options on a lot of your titles, and we patiently await for a Titanfall movie or TV show. But obviously there's a lot of crossover from talent, and I'm wondering how successful it has been for you to find people from the Hollywood community, maybe visual effects artists and things like that, and have you been able to bring them to game development, and has that worked out the way that you hoped, or not? I'd just love your sort of perspective on that.
Sometimes, not always. I think, with anything, it's there's not a one size fits all. So, we have people that do make the transition that have been amazing, and we have people that make the transition and don't really love it.
What do you think is unique to the people that make that transition successfully?
I think some people just get interactive entertainment more, like it's more in their wheelhouse, and it makes sense to them. And some people, when you're used to linear entertainment, it's probably different. And if you're not, if you don't embrace gaming as a kind of a new way of being entertained, then it's probably not as good for you.
We went through a time, and I remember this when I started my career, there were a lot of people in games that didn't, especially at the corporate level, especially at the executive level, that didn't really know games. Like they knew that they were successful and they were, it was a money-making entertainment out there, but they didn't really love playing them or talking about the intricacies about them. Is that, can the industry sustain that, or do you need to really care about this industry at this point and really know it's, because I always thought, movie makers and movie studios, they love they might be cynical, they might be jaded, but they love movies. And the same is true with the music industry. Right. But in video games, it felt like there was room for people that just looked at them as, they were selling box product. It could be shoes, it could be anything, but I don't know if that is the case anymore. And I would love your perspective on that.
Well, I think we're still a relatively young industry. So it's when you want a certain level of expertise, it doesn't always exist within the game industry, right? So if you're looking for that, sometimes you take a chance on someone from outside the industry who can make the transition. I mean, in my mind, ideally, if you're working on something, if you love it, you're going to do a better job at it. Like it just, it makes sense to me. So I would always lean towards that, but it's not always true. There are some people that can make the transition.
Is that a philosophy, maybe, inadvertently, that you've kind of adopted as you brought people aboard at Respawn and maybe some partner companies that you've hired?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I would definitely be more drawn to, someone that is more into games, that loves games, that can talk about games, that has a passion. Like that's absolutely true.
And thankfully, we're seeing the world kind of rally around that and adopt that at all levels now, and I think I've always felt that too. And I actually, in my first E3 in '95, I got into an argument with the president of Virgin because he told me flat out he didn't really care. I can't even remember what his name was, but I was like a young punk, and I was like, "What? How can you not love the video games? You're working at a video game company." Okay. I had another question pop up here. I don't know where it is. Okay, another one popped out. You described the ownership your game directors were given and have, which, given the game's success, is indicative of their talent and skills. How do you find, recognize, and cultivate such talent? You just look at who got hired at Blizzard?
No. I think it's a mix, right? Like we have people like, Chad, who's running the Apex team right now, came up from, he worked at Infinity Ward. He came up from, entry level to now he's in charge of the entire Apex team. So like that comes from within. Stig had an obvious track record with God of War, and, I've known him. I wanted to work with him. I brought him over, so I think it's a mix of, you see talent, you grow talent, you see talent and want to work with it. And, it's not just talent, it's, talent that vibes well with the Respawn culture and, and me and how we want to work together. So it can come from
what would surprise people about a project that you would like to see Respawn make, and I know that enters into slightly dangerous territory of revealing something you may not want to, but is there a type of game or something that you would love to see come out of Respawn that you may or may not be working in the direction towards?
Yes.
And it will surprise us all. Very cool. Talk to me about Medal of Honor Allied Assault. We talked offline before we did this. Why was that game so important to you?
Why was it important at the time or in my career? I don't know. It's like,
yeah, a little bit of all of it, and for you to reflect on it. I asked. I think we were just having a chit chat, and I asked what game kind of has meant the most to you, and you brought up that one.
I mean, Allied Assault kind of like, so Peter, who's running the Medal of Honor VR team, came from, he worked at Amblin with Spielberg. He worked on the original Medal of Honor on PS1.
Peter Hirschman.
And so he's the game director on the Medal of Honor team.
Wonderful guy.
Wonderful guy. Working with him, kind of going with EA, and they had at that point they had a PS2 version of the game. I don't remember what it ended up being called, but there was a Medal of Honor game in the works. The ask was, EA came to us and said, "Can you do a PC port of this game?" And the answer was no, because that's dumb. Like, let's do something, like real. Let's do a real game. And that's where give me a week. We'll come back with, this design for something completely unique to the PC, and it's going to make sense. And that's where Allied Assault was born. So kind of, it was great for the company. 2015 at the time, needed that project. I think it helped really like launch my career to the next level. Working with, a product started by Spielberg, and, and working with Peter and the EA team. And, so there was a lot that went into it. And it was, awesome. At a time, we did that game with 20 some odd people, so it was just like everybody did everything. It didn't matter. If there was a task, somebody just jump on it and get it done. Cause we got a lot of work to do. There wasn't any tension. It was just, there was a lot of tension, but not within the team. It was just like everyone get together and just do it.
And no external developers at that point.
I don't think so.
Yeah. That's awesome. All right, my friend, we had some great questions from everybody. We got some great insight into how you operate and how Respawn has managed to just blow out the doors and become a massive success. I'm going to give you one last opportunity to tell the world that Titanfall 3 is on the way. Go, Vince. Okay. I tried, everybody. This was Vince Zampella from Respawn Entertainment, and thank you so much, sir. It was great to talk with you. Thank you all for watching. Awesome. We have a lot more XDS coming your way, so don't go anywhere.